I think we can begin. So among all the when I do the animal module, among all the animals available, I try to keep a variety of things that we can practice from. The whole point is that you learn to basically just get your hand to do some drawing and painting and all of that. But if you focus on any one type of animal, you then start becoming good at only that, or comfortable at that. Or if you are uncomfortable and you're not happy with, say, drawing animals, like four-legged animals or mammals or birds, then you tend to avoid it altogether and not do any of that. So if you create a variety of all and try to attempt one or the other, there is always something that is easy in one that helps you to take one step further, and then something that's difficult, which in that area you can learn from another creature. So keeping that variety helps. Like, for example, drawing the basic shapes of insects would be fairly easy. You just have an oval or a circle, and then you divide it in 3 or 4 parts, and you should be done with it. And then when it comes to coloring, then you see all these shiny fluorescent colors, and then you feel, I'm never going to be able to do this. How am I going to show this shine? And that's when you say, okay, maybe this is the difficult part in insects. But the same thing in, say, birds. Birds are slightly more advanced than insects. So you still have an oval body, but there's few proportions that become important. But the coloring is fairly easy. It's just blends of colors and just methodical application of brushstrokes one after the other, and you can do a fairly good job. So I find that if you literally identify the aspects that you can do in all these different subjects, focus on those, then you start gaining a little bit of confidence, and then you can attempt the difficult parts in all of them also. So when you're practicing on your own, if you the whole point of doing so many different topics through all these weeks is that you start on your own, also picking up something from a topic in the past and insert one of your own practice sessions during the week whenever you can. And if the time, if this timing suits you, then sometime during the rest of the week also you will have time around this time that you can begin. And in that case also, don't commit to a 90-minute session or wait for that 90 minutes to happen to commit to an artwork. If it is 20 minutes, so be it. Just sit down with your paper and draw something for 20 minutes. And then you can expand that time. So even right then, once you're there committing for 20 minutes, you realize, okay, maybe I can adjust some things in the evening and continue in that day itself. So 20 minutes can easily bleed into 30 minutes. And then eventually, if you get immersed in your artwork, then the whole 90 minutes or 2 hours, you can complete the artwork and finish it off. So insects are a very nice theme for you to build almost a series in the next maybe few weeks. So I'm giving you like a smattering of ideas. You have caterpillars, damselflies, little beetles, and as you know, the variety of insects is huge. There's probably more varieties of insects than any other creatures, and I find it fascinating across the world. There are so many. Just because they're so tiny and hidden, we tend to not see them in full glory. But if you can hunt these out, and in your case, Ashrita, if you have a background, you would also probably know a little bit about them, about labels and about naming them. It might be even more fun. And this can become a painting series that you can think about putting up somewhere in your rooms or in your homes in some form or another. So for example, if you want to work with a circular paper and you just make a whole lot of these illustrations, you can just string them one below the other and they can become a very nice, I guess, efficient artwork to put somewhere up. one reason to put up your artwork is to be able to be in its environment for a little while. That way you keep seeing it from the corner of your eye, and there's some kind of organic uh, learning that takes place when you have that your own artwork in your environment. You have created each and every line and shape and color on that artwork. You may be happy with some of it, you may be unhappy with some of those, but all of that brings back the memory of doing that artwork. And in some ways, I have found that as much as I don't believe in all sorts of mumbo jumbo, about how energies and everything works. I don't think it applies here, but somewhere your brain is constantly perfecting its own systems. That I believe. So when you have that artwork, somewhere it identifies or has memory of a line that has worked well that you can enjoy, that you might have to do more consciously. But in most cases, it will bring you the memory of something that you've not liked, and it'll keep thinking about how I could have done it better. And that learning is not just something, it's like an additional learning you do than what you do physically. And that can happen so subliminally that you don't even realize when the next time you take on any artwork, not even the same, your line is a lot better, and you I guess over months become conscious that your line has changed and you didn't even know when that happened. So try this experiment out. This is an easy subject. You should be able to do one illustration of maybe a butterfly or a moth in about 20 minutes. So taking on a series of 3 of the same insect type should be pretty easy. So I'll go over the pictures, and today we're going to do the drawing in color pencils. So we'll, whichever color you have closest to the color that I'll explain to you, use that to create the drawing. Oh, 1 second.
I'm logging out from the phone.
Yeah.
And
Livia, what color set do you have? Color pencil set? Oh, how interesting. Does it have a color eraser in the back as well? That is so cute. Wait, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yeah, that's it.
Huh.
Yeah, it's my son. So my husband bought it for him. I think so. It's from Hamleys or something like that. So it has,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
cute. Adorable.
rubbers here and the pencil. And it's a
Very
wooden,
nice.
yeah, wooden looking pencil. So it's
How
pretty
how
good.
old is your son?
He's 3.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
just recommend when you're giving him these pencils, do you have an accessory that widens or that attaches onto the
No, no,
pencil? So
no.
I'm going to ask you to look for this on
Okay.
Amazon or something. This will make the stem of the pencil thicker,
Okay.
because 3-year-olds usually
Yeah.
don't have the kind of muscle strength to hold a pencil. So they'll
Okay.
end up holding it like this or like this, and then that starts becoming their permanent grip. So by the
Okay.
time he goes to school, there's a good chance that he would probably write like this.
Yeah.
But if you have if you have something fatter, we want him to write like this.
Yeah.
In what's called a pincer grip, I think.
Okay.
That is possible if it is slightly wider.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just try it out. If he's naturally
Yeah.
holding it like that, then great. You don't have to get it.
Yeah, he does because yeah, I've been giving him chalks and crayons, the smaller crayons,
Ah.
from quite a long time. So I've been working on his grip. So
Ah, okay.
now he holds the pencil properly.
Good,
So
good. That's very nice.
nowadays his figures also becoming like only first he used to draw with a circle and then hands and legs used to come out of the same circle. That used to be
Oh,
a figure. Now he started making bodies too. So he made a
okay.
oval for the face and then a body, and then the
Ah,
legs come out, the straight leg and the hands come out.
nice. Good.
So he loves drawing these
Very
things.
good, very good. Just keep an eye on the grip because I
Yeah.
often get students, young kids who come for class and they have terrible grips. Then I've,
So the I started with these whiteboard markers, the broader ones,
yeah,
thicker one, these ones,
correct.
whiteboard markers, and my home has these white tiles.
Okay.
So he could just write anywhere on the tiles, on the floor. So the whole floor was his. And
Mm,
just wipe it with a cloth and it's wiped. So he
yeah,
enjoyed doing that. So that's why
very,
his grip
a very
started with
smart
these
idea.
pens. Yeah, these pens. So he enjoys those. So
Very
now
good.
his grip is better. He didn't have pressure that before. Now he is developing that pressure also.
Right,
So
right.
because these markers, you don't need to put any pressure in it.
Correct.
So just now he is developing pressure with the pencil. So
That's
now
good.
he's 3.5 exactly. So now I'm starting to tell him to put a little pressure on it. So he can write with the pencil also now.
Very nice. Very good.
So yeah.
Cool.
Get these thick crayons, jumbo crayons. Those are
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's also
Very
nice.
fat ones. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're good.
Okay. All right. So we can start. I'll go back to sharing a screen. So we are going to start off with something as simple as caterpillars, almost like the life cycle of an insect. But there's just this caterpillar. Oh, there's a picture of a pupa as well. I'm going to share that. That's very pretty. And then we have all these insects. So there's beetles, moths, another scarab beetle, and a damselfly. So I've tried to keep a variation of shapes, color types, so we can experiment with different kind of coloring techniques. Here we'll do a little bit of how to show reflections or shiny surfaces. And in this case, we have a little bit of color blending and then drawing or illustrating the texture that appears on top of that color blended part. Plus, the body of this damselfly or dragonfly also has got some shine. So I want to show you how to do that as well. Now we are going to use color pencils that are closest to the body color of these insects. For the beetle, we may not even need it, but let's use it. It doesn't matter. We are going to just do the drawing with uh, the color pencils, but then we will paint on top of it as well with watercolors as usual. Your color pencils may or may not be water soluble. It doesn't matter. Any kind of color pencil is fine. The difference over here will be in the result of that line. When we use regular pencils, we get a distinct gray colored line because of the graphite. And that itself endows a certain feel to your picture. But the moment you change the line and make that in color, that it almost becomes invisible when you start painting. So for beginners, it's a nice way to graduate to drawing where the drawing looks softer. It does not have those hard pencil edges or gray edges. And you also tend to erase or feel the need to erase less because the light colors of the pencil, is going to be absorbed in the painting. So let's start with that caterpillar. And we are going to make all these creatures on one page. So we'll make the caterpillar here. We will make the beetle here. Maybe the dragonfly. We're just going to make one of them. Or actually, you can make two also. Big spread out wings on top, and then the side profile over here, maybe, and then the beetles and the moth over here. So I want you to, I guess, budget enough area for all of them individually. Now I'm using this very fancy coloring set. This is what is it called? Polychromos kit. This is one of 3 such trays, and I am looking for every possible opportunity to use it, and I'll end up not
Beautiful.
using it. It's a delight.
Just to look at it, it's like
Colors in it. Oh my
This
God.
is
And
fine.
it's just one tray.
This is one tray, and I'll show you. So if I'm going to be stranded on any desert island, you know what I'm going to carry. And then there's the warm colors. So that's it. 3 trays. It's such a delight. So I'm choosing, now I'm a little spoiled for color over here. So I will choose something that is not the color match. This would be a good color match for the caterpillar. But if in a standard 12 color kit, I won't get this. So I'm going to use something like this, a lighter green. This would be close to a color that you might have in your color kit. So I just want to demonstrate how you will achieve an invisible line even with a color that is not exactly identical to the color that we want. Now, normally we do a whole lot of rough lines and all. We can do the same in this pencil as well. It will be very light, so I don't want you to press the pencil. Remember, only you need to see the line, and you are no more than about 12 or 10 inches from the paper. So you will be able to see it. So don't press the pencil too much. Draw a line that is just a single line showing the almost going from the left edge of the creature, and see how tall the line is, how what its angle is, and adjust it in its angle and length. And you can literally start drawing the rest of the caterpillar on this like almost beads. Now the mouth looks a little complicated, so you can start from the middle and arrive at the mouth part. So start with one segment over here. And keep building on that. The third segment in this section has got some legs. So just ignore the leg part on the left and continue to just make the segment. Now, the black sections in this are occupying a lot of space, and they are creating the illusion of maybe a shadow or a gap between the segments. There is, I don't think there are gaps in this, but it just makes it seem like there are gaps. So with the green pencil itself, give an extra line there to indicate that black section. That way you will not you will not, I guess, miscalculate the space required for that section. And any place that you are unsure about the absolute shape, just make the silhouette, just the outline. Now, if you have some lines that have gone outside of your designated space, don't try to erase them or anything. Just adjust your line and move forward. And you might need to count the sections as you move forward. So I often look for an easy indicator. Like, for example, you have the head and then two segments which have got legs, two segments which don't have legs, and then four segments which have legs, two which don't, and then the last segment which has some kind of leg. There's an interesting history about illustrations or yeah, I guess botanical illustrations of insects by an artist named Maria Sybil Marian or something. I'll share her a history page with you.
Somebody
She,
shared it on the group today, on the larger group, Art for Home.
oh, is that so?
I
Oh,
think
I
so.
didn't see it. Okay,
Yeah.
so I had shared it with the Tuesday group with whom we or Saturday group. So she was I think she was she Dutch or was she English? I'm a little unsure about that. But fascinating how she was an artist of insects, and she has these beautiful illustrations of insects in their natural environment with even life cycles painted. This was at the turn of the 17th century. So from 16, I guess 1680s or something like that, to about 1711, something that was her, the time that she was working. And although she drew all these insects, they look very pretty and everything. At that time, there was very little understanding about insect life cycles, and it was almost believed by naturalists, mind you, not by lay people, that insects were a spontaneous creation. So caterpillars were one thing, they lived and died, and butterflies were another thing, they lived and died, and they had no connection with each other. That was the belief among naturalists. Now, this Maria went and I think she told the naturalist that, look, guys, I have seen this. The caterpillar itself becomes a butterfly. And can you imagine their reaction? A woman telling men what that she knows better. You can imagine how well it went down with them. It completely, I mean, they just probably laughed it off and said, oh, okay, okay, huh? Very nice. Thank you, thank you. And she packed her off somewhere. And then she said, okay, fine. Yeah, I mean, no skin off my teeth. You can just go do your research and I'll continue painting. And she did her own thing. She traveled to Suriname, even in that day and age. It's unbelievable. And continued to paint. I think she traveled with her daughter. And eventually, the naturalists agreed that yes, these are all connected, but they did not give her credit for knowing this before. So if, at some point, I guess someone discovered that how is it that in books on nature at that time, You have one piece of information, but at the same time, you have someone who has drawn all these. It couldn't be a coincidence. And they decided that some of the men at that time were being absolute dolts, and they gave her the credit that was due. So she was then, I think, posthumously declared as a naturalist. So I came across her work quite by accident because I was looking for female artists at one point when I was teaching in school. There is so much known about men and male artists, but hardly anything about women. So this was one artist I came across. And again, because we are not taught this as part of history, we don't even realize the contribution of women in history. So quite apt for this week, this class, in honor of Maria Sibyl, whatever her name is. All right, now for painting this, it's fairly simple. We will mark out the areas where you have those red and, I'm sorry, what am I saying? Black and yellow dots. And for this, I would encourage you to go very slowly. Go one section at a time to achieve that texture. On the face, you have like a black line that's the collar, almost like a collar. Then there's a gap and then there's another line. So I'm going to paint part of this and show you so that you can paint the rest. Literally identify one spot, one dot at a time and draw that. So there are a few yellow patches over here and the rest is black. We can make the yellow patches using gamboge. I'm just going to demonstrate this. So if you want, you can just observe. We will be doing this for the whole body and then do the painting, but I want to show you how this is going to look. And I'll also tell you the colors that I'm using. But the painting is just done like this. You will then spread the color. You could paint the entire section also and pull the color down towards the bottom of that mouth. And in some places, you might want to leave a section free. And once this dries, you will see hints of the lines that you have drawn, your color pencil lines, but they will not be as dark as obviously our regular drawing pencil. Once this dries, then we can use a thin pointed brush and paint the black sections. So yeah, this is dried. So at this point now, I can paint the black and I can make it a nice thick paint as well. And you could probably just pick it up directly from the cake. And in painting this, don't make an outline. This is where you paint like how I tell you not to paint. Paint in a very scratchy manner so that you can get the effect of pigmentation as is seen on animals. And you'll find this is easier to achieve them. Okay, so let's make all the different shapes. And then we will paint them together. Now, if you feel that it would get very confusing. You're not sure how it's going to look. Then you can paint 3 or 4 sections at a time. Draw those out and then paint those. Some of the smaller dots can be ignored. Okay, I'm drawing the colors that I've used here. The yellow will be gamboge. And the green will be a combination of emerald green and cerulean blue. Now, this color will also be first very watery. We want a light shade of this color. We can't have it too dark or too thick. If you are making this and writing the colors also, I'm going to encourage you to write it very neatly, as if you are going to make a presentation or like a final exam, or it's going to be printed in a book. So don't just scribble. Definitely don't write an angle. Practice your writing in a straight line. The practice of noting down your color mixes is good for posterity. At some point, if you feel you want to make some colors that uh, with a different kit, it helps to know how you have achieved something before. Also, keeping records is something that we're not very talented at as a, I guess, culture. It's almost as if we don't care much about keeping records. So, doubly make sure that you start writing these before or during that exercise rather than saying, oh, I'm going to come back and write this, because that is never going to happen. My hunch is that the English were able to rule the world simply because they kept impeccable records. And since they had all the information, they could just turn it around and say, you guys, you know what, let me teach you how to do this. One must admire that talent. Now, if you want to make a series of paintings of insects, look for some kind of common colors or common factors, either the shapes of the bodies or the wings, or maybe the fact that all of them have black color patches in some form or another, or something like that. Then that series can tie into each other really well.
Do you do the wash first or you do the yellow dots?
I'm doing the
Like
yellow dots first.
okay,
And the wash, I'm not going to do it like one flat wash throughout. I'm going to do
okay. So
it
then you go
section, yeah, section by section. It works out a little better, I feel. And now this illustration is going to seem like it's very detailed. But the parts which are black, I'm going over those. And then because it's such a light color, we can just paint the whole part fully and then maybe come back into it with a lighter, or sorry, with the second stroke later to create depth. Or as you go along, you'll notice that you can just bring all the color towards the left or the bottom of that section and create some depth also. We need to create a three-dimensional feel, even if the color is light. And you don't want to have to paint this separately. So the direction of your brushstroke can determine that, can also aid that. In some places, if you feel you can leave a little bit of a highlight. Because of the lightness of the color, that highlight is going to look very hardly going to be visible, but it will create a sense of roundness and reflection. Even over here, like where the folds of the skin are, even there you can make it slightly lighter. I wish they had taught us biology like that. I mean, I learned biology myself like this by just drawing and illustrating pictures, but I thought I was wasting time. I mean, not that my parents made me feel that. I just felt that instead of memorizing all the names of the body parts, drawing is not going to help. And what if they don't ask me to draw in the paper? Then I'm doomed. But there's so much one can learn uh, while you're sketching. So I read up a little bit on just people's learning abilities after I became older and I did not have to give any exams anymore. But there is a thing like visual learning, and kids who say doodle in class are learning differently than kids who are reading words. And sometimes there are kids who are just listening intently. Now, I'm restricting my observation only to kids who are serious. There are always kids who don't care, and there will always be those kids, and that's perfectly fine. So my painting is not uniform. I do not want the color to be like a flat uniform color. That will make this just look like a patch. You don't want that. A few places I have a little darkness. Few places I've left out, so then there is some highlight. Now I'm taking a thin brush and a little more concentrated color and going over some of the uh, parts like this by pressing the brush just a little bit. The amount of paint in my brush is very little. And I am, you might say, literally drawing with the paint. I'm not drawing everything, not all the lines, just the pertinent lines and in a few places so that I can maintain the softness of this picture. It's important to take a very dry brush, or the line on the brush should be very smooth and thin. Now there's a little brush manipulation you can do over here, where in some sections you press the whole brush down like that. It gives a very subtle line. If you have got that dry brush technique well enough, this is the technique you can use to overlay color one over the other, one stroke at a time, and create a nice darkness to a very subtle line by just building over and over. Now, just as a matter of practice, I'm going to ask you to not paint the black part yet, because there could be wet paint. So we are going to leave this for 5 minutes and draw the next thing. So just let me know when you finish coloring the yellow and the green bits, and we will move to the beetle. I have spoiled a lot of pictures like that, putting in a dark color prematurely and then picking myself for not waiting. And everything else has gone so nice, and then the final disaster. It's like a knife in the heart. So since then, I decided that at any point when I have to include a dark color, I have to find a way to wait. And usually we get very impatient because that black color is going to dramatically change the picture. So I start a second picture and focus on that. Sometimes there's 2, 3 pictures, and I keep going back and forth. So there's that way you are suitably distracted. Sometimes the mind can be like a child. It does not have any self-control. It does its own thing, and we have to then pay the price. So let's avoid that. Shall we start drawing the beetle? Actually, before the beetle, let's draw that dragonfly, the last one. And we'll draw it in a space over here. As per rules of composition, first fit in the larger elements, and then we can squeeze in the ladybug somewhere, wherever we find space. For the dragonfly, again, use a light line. And first, I will encourage you to draw the dragonfly which is in side profile, not the one that has spread its wings out completely. That the one that is horizontal, that one. And I want you to try and draw this as like a very loose sketch. So start off with some kind of shape for the head, a loose-ish shape for the body, and then you can also draw, if you're not sure, this is the place you can draw a line like this, because it will give us that segmented fractured line that we can use over here. This is a perfect example of why you should never reject any kind of effect in art. So as much as I keep telling students to not draw a line a certain way, I try to tell them that it's not wrong, the way a line is drawn, if it's drawn fractured, it is just inappropriate at that point. So you don't completely dismiss it from your repertoire. It will come in handy in a place like this. Now, to give yourself, even if it's a casual illustration, you want to make the illustration as accurate as possible. So give yourself some guide points, like, okay, from here the line goes, for the wing goes up in so and so direction up to maybe this point. And what is that point? A segment on the body is perpendicularly below that. Then the angle changes and goes somewhere over here, up to maybe here, so that it doesn't go all the way to how long the body is. And draw these extra lines if you feel that is going to help you. That's perfectly fine. Expecting to be able to draw one line and finish it off is expecting too much. And then you can come back and just finish it much better. Once you have made this, stick with it. Then don't try to make any adjustments. And then with this pencil itself, you can draw the various segments that you see as much as you see them. There are three primary shapes that emerge from the joint area. And then there are more almost shadows of the same shape repeating one after the other. Same thing goes for the legs. You have one leg coming from the front at a particular angle. Then you have another just behind that, but angling towards maybe 4 o'clock, but I have made mine at 5. That's okay. And then you have one from below. And then don't forget this tiny antenna over on the front of the face. To paint this and to make it look as shiny in the green shiny part, the trick is to only look at the color and place the color is at and put it in that place. So if you look at it, the main body where you might think there's a highlight is basically just a bright green color, which we can achieve using what colors? Maybe emerald green mixed with lemon yellow. So you apply that over the entire body. And then you use maybe a cobalt blue, or in this case, you can use ultramarine blue, and just make a few strokes for shadows. You could also make a few highlights in a place upper niche somewhere so that it looks more, the contrast is higher. All right. So here's our color mix for the body. I am mixing lemon yellow with emerald green this time. And I'm applying it very casually. So this painting is not going to be as formal as the earlier one. We're not going to do very careful strokes. It's going to be a unis piece deliberately. A little bit of the same color on the face. Then we will mix a cobalt blue and perhaps even a viridian green to give it a slight bit of a highlight of blue-green. And since we have painted the whole section in green, this is just going to come over and create a darker green directly. So I'm just making these strokes very casually, deliberately. The earlier painting, we were very careful, making some um, deliberate strokes. So this time is actually the worst time to paint because after sundown, everything looks very different. So ideally, painting should be done, especially subtle colors like these, should be painted in the morning hours, not even the afternoon, if you can help it. Now for the wings, we are going to paint two colors merging into each other. They're going to be gamboge merging into first cerulean blue and then cobalt blue. So again, this is how I'll do it. I'm going to hydrate these colors. I have a little bit of the blue on the palette as well, but I'm first going to hydrate the color so that I can just dip into this, quickly check on the palette, and then go ahead and paint. And the reason I'm not making a proper formal puddle of one color or the other is because it takes time. And we don't want to spend time in this. I want to show you how you can just put down some colors that look pretty very casually. So you paint almost just over 1/3 of the wing in gamboge, and before that dries, okay, I'm adding directly a cobalt blue. And let the cobalt blue merge into this the gamboge. At this point, you can press the brush down and pull the color outward. Merging colors into wet colors will give us some clouds or some effects which in themselves can also be very pretty. So this is a beautiful texture that shows something like what would you would describe dragonfly wings as, like gossamer, something very light. Now, as you might guess, we have, oh, there's one more part, forget. So we won't have to wait here. We use this same color, cobalt blue, for even the rest of the body, which I've forgotten conveniently. The color on the rest of the body is bluer than what we see on this, the front part. I think that is called the thorax. So just drag your brush from section to section. Automatically, wherever you lift the brush, there will be a little dark color that arrives. And in some places, my color has gone even over the highlight. But because it is watercolor, once it's dried completely, I will get a sense of what's actually happening. And then I can get back into this with a darker shade. Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, with this, we come to the same point at which we left the caterpillar. Resist the temptation to make those lines on the wing at this point. Give it 5-10 minutes to dry completely, and then we'll come back and make those details. And now we can go back to the details on the caterpillar. The black parts on the caterpillar are a very dense black color. And I think that is probably because either those stripes are meant to look like almost a velvety texture, or they are velvety, I don't even know. But for us, if we try to make one flat black, often that can backfire in our painting. So I tend to do this in 2 layers. I first put in a deep gray color, and then in a few sections, I will add extra color to change the depth of the black and make that part look slightly darker. So even if it is a velvety black, it still has patches of the way the eye notices it, a few patches that are darker than the others. Very subtle, the borders are not quite visible, and it's only a perception, I think. It may not even be the case. Okay, so this is gonna take a while and I don't want to spend time in just doing this coloring. So let me know if you have any issues and I can help you out with coloring the black parts here. Don't forget that this caterpillar seems to have some interesting nail-like features at the end of its legs, so in the front. So do make that like a small triangle shape. It almost looks like goth nail paint. Now moving on back to the dragonfly. We have already drawn these lines. So you can take a nice dark color. And I have some color left over from before, and I don't know what this is. It looks much darker than cobalt blue. Could be a mix of cobalt blue and black or ultramarine blue. So a slightly darker blue or the same blue is fine. You can make these lines over. And they don't have to fit or sit in the same place. They can just sit next to the lines that you have made. That's fine too. And in this case, you also have some texture over here. So you could probably replicate that. In making these dark lines, you will reduce that brightness, at least in my case, I have a very bright yellow here. So I am reducing that with making these dark blue lines. I'm using the same color then to paint an outline a few places. It's not apparent, so I don't really need to make it, but it just gives a certain edge formality to the edge. You can then take ultramarine blue and make a few strokes very lightly in this section of the wing. Don't paint the whole thing though, because you want that transparent effect. And then a little bit of dark on the face. And at this point now you can change the silhouette of the face and make it like how we see it. It's like a very weird creature. Oh my God. They must think we are such weird creatures.
It's like a helmet or something. It seems like
Yeah.
this.
I'm sure a lot of times some story writers have imagined what goes on in the heads of dragonflies. They look at our face and say, oh my God, look at that. They have such weird eyes and everything just faces the front. How do they look? How do they see from the sides what's happening? Now, if you feel the need to add more contrast, you can always resort to a few black lines or shapes drawn in sections which are dark, or the joints between all the body parts. Because the more contrast you add, the more the shine on the animal's body will become convincing. Now, before we finish, we just have another 10 minutes or so. I want to show you how to make the beetle. So are we okay with the dragonfly? You could try and make the one which has spread out wings in pretty much the same fashion. The dragonfly in the picture, the beetle in the picture can be drawn in one way. But before we draw that, I want to show you just an easy way to draw beetles. Start off with a couple of ovals. And within that oval, very lightly mark a highlight on any one side parallel to, it's like a small oval just stuck over there, to not stuck, but closer to one side corner edge. Then using just a plain scarlet and burnt umber. This is how we paint it. You avoid painting the highlight and pull the color to the opposite end of where you kept the highlight. So it'll be on a diagonal. And in this, without washing your brush, just insert a little bit of thick burnt umber and scarlet mix. And let it dry. In this case, we need a nice thick color wash, not a light color wash. And because both of them are colors from the same side of the color wheel, you don't really need to wash your brush. So you save some time in between and also some color. Now, while this dries, I'll draw the beetle on the from our reference image. So this is how I'm going to draw it. We have a shape like this. It's pretty big. I can't even tell what red I'm using. It looks very... Oh, okay. I'm using a slightly orangey red. It's a point at the bottom, round collar, a little circular shape here, and then coming down and meeting the point like this. Then you have a division in the wings, and then you have an almost triangular highlight here. So what we see in the first illustration, which almost looks like beads, I'm now making it more refined and more details added here. There are some white patches along the collar. Then there are black patches, which also I am drawing with my pencil first. Now the patches are round, but in this case, they don't look round. You can see them as ovals in some places because they will give us roundness. And for the head, we can use a black or a gray pencil and mark that shape out. which also has a white patch and a highlight. Now the painting is exactly the same. That's why I wanted to show you the painting first and then show the reference image. Using a nice thick scarlet. By thick, I just mean that it's not a wash consistency. This is a highlight. Then there's a slight highlight along the side edge as well. And everything else is black dots. So I don't need to leave them unpainted. And then the same procedure using a mix of burnt umber and scarlet. I will pull this color down. So in the beginning, when we don't see the dots that we have carefully drawn, you might panic. But you realize there's no need for that. As the color dries, it'll automatically start showing through. That I am going to get some kind of a patch here because I have fan on top of me and I waited just maybe a couple of seconds more than I should have. But if I start fiddling around with this right now, I'm doomed. The picture is doomed. But I can add other things like a strong line for the wings. And maybe I'll just let it be. It doesn't matter. So while this beetle is drying, I'm sorry, I'm just moving too fast. So at some point, I think you will just abandon and just watch. But I wanted to show you this technique because these beetles are beautiful additions to any artwork when you're drawing flowers or maybe bouquets. So the casual beetle illustration is just like this. You can then make on any one shorter end of the oval the face or head of the beetle. A thin line that runs not straight but slightly convex to any one side from the center of this black part, and then imitating the colors that we have, the dots that we have on our reference image, you can create the same kind of dots on this very casual illustration. On the sides, though, they will not be circular, they will be oval. And we will make a second pair on the opposite side. Put two cute little antenna. And this is also done. If you want to, you can add legs on one side, some nice hairy legs. And that should do it too. So just that highlight makes such a big difference and makes your insects so believable. And here we can complete the same.
Is there a green outline to the black dots on that? No.
Green outline? No, no,
Oh, no.
no, no.
Okay,
And
it's just the.
if you see it that way, it's probably because of the interaction of black and red. Or if I'm not seeing it, I need to go get my eyes checked.
No, I'm seeing it. So it must be my eyes.
No, no, we all see different things. So if you are seeing it and if I'm not, it could just be that
I think so. It's because of the screen, the camera, because I can also see some shadows.
Oh,
Now,
yeah, in my picture.
yeah, in your picture.
No. So yes, this is just because of failing light. There's
Yeah.
absolutely no green. No.
Yeah, so I can also see some shadows along the black.
No. There is nothing.
Yeah,
nothing
now
like
it's
that.
okay.
Okay, so I thought this was in the reference image and I was getting
No,
all.
no, 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 no. In
Oh,
this one.
so but that's interesting. If you were to draw it with a green background, exactly like you see it, then it could imitate how you will see this on screen. Because you see that color, you just make it in the place that you see it, and that's it. You will successfully create that illusion. I have not fixed that horrible cloud that has come because I just want to leave it like that. And sometimes I just feel that these things can make your illustration actually look more fun. These imperfections and more human. I'm finding ways to differentiate human art, from what is soon going to become our competitor, AI. And I have a feeling that AI will it'll be very difficult for AI to be able to replicate our, um, not mistakes, but just the unpredictable one.
Foible. What do you call it? I
Sorry?
don't know how. I know how the word is pronounced, but the foibles or like the.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
foibles of human, incompetence.
I think people will come back to human, like to art, because that will be so perfect that nobody wants to look at something like that.
Yeah, I know. I find it even digital printed fabric, though it
Yeah,
does look gorgeous.
horrible.
I
Some of
I
it,
am still attracted to hand block print
yeah.
and earth colors just because of how it looks. The earthy feel is much more attractive. So I'm going to encourage you to finish the whole page. If the insects that I have sent are not sufficient, then you can find some of your own insects. Look for one great series is, well, I think butterflies of different nations or even states. So I think Maharashtra is that blue monarch butterfly or something. That's a state butterfly. So many states have their emblems, also state emblems. Those can be drawn. Find a series. So you don't have to do too much magajmari and now what should I do? The thinking process sometimes keeps us from illustrating. So get a series and say, okay, we have so and so number of states, which is also always changing, and pick whatever you can from that. So I'm going to share, just before we end, a few creative applications of these insect illustrations. And I'm sure you might have come across this in other places as well. But this is another thing that you could indulge in. So taking the basic forms from insects, converting them and substituting them with other similar forms. So in our minds, we recall that which is familiar, but the object is made completely out of unfamiliar um, I, elements. Here we are using the basic lines on the scarab and adding more elements to those lines to create a more expanded, embellished aesthetic. This is absolutely stunning. Such detailed blue pottery design. And one might think that, at least I think in India, we're not very kind to animals like these. Half the time, women are screaming and running out of rooms when there's a big bee or something like that, like it's going to devour them. But that's why this does not, we don't see much in our, say, jewelry or fabrics, printing or textiles or designs, these kinds of creatures, but they have a lot to offer. It's an absolutely stunning piece of jewelry. So when you think of animals, insects, and recreating them, one is like what we are doing. But as an added exercise for yourselves, think about how you can recreate that shape with something completely different. This is, I'm sure you will have come across this exercise maybe in school, if you had a creative art teacher. That almost seems like an oxymoron, a creative school art teacher, because they often don't think of another kind of application. So, say for example, leaves are often very close in shape to wings of butterflies, moths, even dragonflies. So watch out for these things around you and try to collect them, press them, again, note them, keep a record of where you keep them. And as much as I'm telling you this, I often fail in doing all of that. So I will keep a beautiful piece of seed very carefully, which means that I'm never going to find it in life ever again. So I'm like a scavenging squirrel sometimes. I will keep it one place and then I'll feel, okay, where have I kept it? I'll forget it, then I'll keep another one. Someday when all of my stuff is taken out, I'll just find this hoard of pressed flowers and leaves, which hopefully my daughters can use. That's going to be their inheritance. So once you find those, then you can literally just use cut and paste techniques. You don't only have to stick to natural materials. You could also look for scrap. You could pick out stuff that, like, for example, I can immediately see that the arms of the scarab or the beetle are very much like those airline tags that they put on our bags. So because there is a locking mechanism that for which they need to have those, I don't know what they're called. So that is often broken and thrown away, but that can make a beautiful substitute for the scarab um, arms or antennae. So watch out for these things and collect them. Even if you don't want to paste them, you can place them in that in a design and click a picture. So even that is enough. And then please go ahead and recycle junk, all of it. Do not hoard. Okay, any questions?
I need to try more and then I'll ask you on the group.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, no problem. So just summing up, it's a very simple process. The drawing of these all these insects is going to be fairly easy. When you're coloring, only objectively just look at what color is placed where, at what intensity, and repeat that. You should be in a good place. There isn't any high technique that you need to use.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to catch you tomorrow
Tomorrow.
at 6.
Same time, 6 o'clock?
Yes, 6
Yeah.
to 7:30. And of course, there's a good chance that I might forget. So if any of you remember, please put it on the group
Yeah, I'll do that.
afternoon. So I'm not suddenly going for a walk or something just to have to class. It's a disclaimer.
Okay.
See you tomorrow then.
See you
Oh,
tomorrow.
wait, 1 minute. Before we end, for tomorrow's class, I would like to start off with a chisel pen. So I'm going to show you a pen that we'll use tomorrow. It's called Alpha Chisel or Super Chisel by a company called Love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can just get one or two of these. They are usually available for 10 rupees, or you can get a whole set for $100, which has 10 colors. That's also very nice because I'd like to start using this from where then we can leap into more historic scripts, more formal scripts.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. See you then tomorrow. Bye
Do we
bye.
See you.
use
Bye.
the same paper or do we need to?
No, same paper. We'll do everything in the drawing book.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Bye. See you.
Bye.